Ink Ribbon.
If you're a gamer, there's a good chance you've had an experience buying a game that left you feeling misled, or annoyed, or maybe even betrayed. We've all been there. And I have the patches from Operation Raccoon City to prove it. But it's okay to feel that way, because you're not alone. Having gone to school for video game development, I learned a lot about how the industry as a whole operates, and also working in film and the entertainment industry in general, I sort of got to peek behind the curtain and see all the things that the companies don't want its customers to see, and it's ugly. Like, you don't want to know what goes on behind the scenes of your favorite movies, TV shows, or even music, and especially games. Just trust me. But I feel that knowing this information, it's sort of my duty to give you some advice to not get screwed over by these game companies. So, with that, let's get started.
Number 5.
GameStop. I'm starting with one that's a little left field, but this still counts. I'm going to say this very clearly. Do not trade in your games. Not to GameStop, not to Amazon, not to anybody. If you want to resell them, then do that at the retail price, but do not trade in your games. I've done this myself, and being not so good with money when I was younger, it took me a long time to realize that I was doing it wrong. I'm using GameStop as a main example, but this applies to similar places as well. Okay, so you buy a shiny new game for $60. You play the game and either realize you hate it, or maybe it was really short and you beat it already, whatever the case. You take it to GameStop and they offer you $15 for it. So you paid $60, you're getting $15 store credit or $7 cash. The store credit is higher, which encourages you to spend it in their store, meaning that they don't lose anything. Now what they do next is put your $60 game, the one they gave you $15 in store credit for, into their used game section, priced at $55, which is $5 less than if you buy it new. So here's why this sucks. A new sealed copy of a game makes GameStop less than $1 in profit. Though I'm sure exclusivity deals and merchandising as well as shelf placement can change that. But yeah, they don't make much from new games. But when you buy a used game, they get 100% of the profits. None of it goes to the game developers. And on top of this, they aggressively push for you to get their membership card at an extra $15, which saves you a big percentage on used games, further incentivizing you to not buy new games.
How do I know all this? Because I worked for GameStop. If you didn't meet a certain amount of memberships sold per month, you were written up and you were in danger of being fired at any time. This was about 10 years ago almost now, so I don't know if that's changed since then. With one simple focus, GameStop screws you, screws the developer, and screws its employees.
If you want to sell your games, I recommend one of those apps like LetGo, eBay, or the Facebook Marketplace. You'll get more money, and your money won't be used to buy some CEO another house.
Number 4.
Work conditions. Working at a game studio may sound like a cool job, but it's not always the case. If you like a game company or are wondering about supporting them, it's always a good idea to do a quick Google search or even look on Reddit. Some game companies are awesome and take really good care of their employees. Most, however, do not. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 was revealed to have horrible work standards for its employees following its release. Working overtime was mandatory, which meant everybody worked 80 hours a week and were in constant fear of being fired because, when developing GTA 5, any employee who worked less than 45 hours a week had their file labeled as such, and they were the first on the chopping block. Along with creating fear of firing, they also had it in their contracts that anyone who left Rockstar before the game was done wouldn't be credited or allowed to use their work in any portfolio or resume. Then you have somewhere like Konami. We all hate Konami anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but this place is run like a prison. All employees are given cards that they have to swipe anytime they leave their desk, going to the bathroom, lunch breaks, even to go ask a question. Anytime that card indicates they left their desk, they're not paid for that time. If they go over the allotted time limit for the week, they can be promptly fired or worse. In typical weird Japanese fashion, instead of firing, many employees are temporarily demoted to cleaning staff at one of their many fitness centers in Japan.
So along with all this is a whole bunch of, hundreds of examples that I'm not going to get into, but these range from voice actor abuse to mass firings to pay cuts and all sorts of stuff. If you really want to be a fan of a developer and support them, just make sure you do your research on them and know that they're a good company to support.
Number 3.
Excessive DLC. Now, DLC when done right can add a lot to a game. It can expand on gameplay, add new mechanics, and include major improvements. These are not the DLCs I'm going to talk about. First, there's overpriced DLC. I'm going to use Dead or Alive 6 and 5 as an example. Now, alternate costumes are cool, but when they end up costing more than the game itself, I think we're getting a little out of control. Now, I know firsthand how much work goes into making a costume for a character. It can be a big task, especially if you include rigging, adding bones and physics, plus the actual modeling, but $92 is insane. This is not you supporting the game company, this is the game company taking you for a ride. And what makes it worse is the way they set up Dead or Alive 6 is predatory. When the game updates, new costumes are added, which means they're there, in your game, you have them, but you have to pay to unlock them. Also, there's the fact that when you go into character customization, you can see them in their costumes and they make them so enticing. Don't give in. Stay strong.
Then we have microtransactions. There is no such thing as a good microtransaction. They are inherently designed to be evil mechanics. If I see that a game has microtransactions, I usually don't buy it.
If they're available for purchase, it's pretty much guaranteed the game will be designed to encourage you to buy them. I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend $60 on a game that's going to make me frustrated enough to spend more money. When it comes to free games, that's a different story. The microtransactions should be optional and the primary method of revenue, but even then the ethics are questionable.
Number 2.
Predatory Mechanics. Black Ops microtransactions made Activision $3.5 billion. Not the game sales, just the microtransactions.
And people might think,
Oh wow, people must really love this game if they're willing to spend this amount on microtransactions.
No.
just like how people develop nicotine addictions or go into crippling debt because of a gambling problem, these are designed to psychologically manipulate you in order to buy them. And then on top of this, they're also designed to make you feel less guilty after you've bought them. That's why legislation had to step in and prevent loot boxes from being a thing, or as EA's PR person tried to spin it, surprise mechanics.
Now, I could do a whole video about the evil psychological tricks they use for microtransactions, but I won't, unless this video receives 5,000 likes. But the tricks ranging from not showing real-life currency values to doubling the amount you get if you spend more, it's just horrible. I don't support any game that does this because it's hurting the game industry as a whole. Games used to be about having fun and being entertained, just like watching a movie or whatever, but now they're being used as a way to siphon money out of people, and that is not okay. More recently, we had the more diabolical exploitation, and that's exploiting how much fans love your series. I am, of course, talking about Fallout 76. Not only are all the microtransactions I just mentioned in there, but they also abused the trust that fans had when they released all those horrible pre-order bonuses. When an influencer gets a nice burlap bag and the customer gets something just above the quality of a trash bag, there's no defending that.
Number 1.
Hype. And last, but probably the most important thing to watch out for is hype. Now this one is tricky because sometimes games really do just generate hype and attention all on their own and then they deliver and everything's fine. Other times the hype builds and builds, everyone gets super excited, the game drops and it's bad or disappointing. So the number one marketing strategy that AAA developers use when they know their game sucks is building hype through advertising. And believe me, they always know when they've made a bad or even mediocre game. If you have enough money for marketing, you can always get people to buy your game. You may not be able to stop bad reviews or fan backlash, but you can make a profit, and that's the number one thing that's most important for them.
When a new game starts popping up everywhere, my immediate reaction isn't excitement, it's skepticism. And I will admit that I have missed out on a lot of games because of this, but I've also never been screwed over by the bad ones.
I saw Fallout 76 coming from a mile away. I still haven't bought Mortal Kombat 11 yet, and now I'm nervous about Cyberpunk 2077.
My advice is to trust your gut instinct, do your research, and also find game reviews that you trust. And that's my advice on how not to get screwed by game companies. What game made you angry at a company because you felt screwed over? Let me know down in the comments. If you like this video, then check out my other videos and feel free to subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to check out the community tab where you can vote on future videos. I'm Kai Morgan, and as always, thanks for watching Ink Ribbon.
And a very special thank you to my bronze, silver, and gold Patreon supporters. Thanks to you, I can make videos without worrying about demonetization and grow my channel faster.